Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Joshino, and today we're going to be taking a look at Open Beta 69 and breaking down this latest patch. This patch is titled The Reign of House Ico, obviously referring to the new champion Khan, which was Lian's bodyguard. And we've also covered that in the last video, and we'll be sure to be playing them as the PTS or public test server goes live very shortly. But today I'm just talking about everything else that has been released, skins, balance, bug fixes and changes, and just going over my thoughts and generally just breaking them down. Spoilers folks, this patch is mainly focused on Khan, I think, bringing him into the realm finally, and honestly, the balancing is pretty light touch here this patch this time around, and the changes coming forward. Open Beta 69 is also the last patch that the VIP system will be in effect, but I'm going to talk about that in another video because it's kind of separate and not really about this patch, rather the next patch when it's being removed and being replaced by a battle pass. Anyway, diving straight into the balancing this time around. So one of the big changes that they're doing to a lot of the champions that have an AoE kind of healing is making it so that the healing can go through the wall. So this time around it's Grover getting a look in. Before it was Pip being able to healing potion through walls. Now Grover's Blossom no longer requires line of sight, and this is also true for their passive healing. It's not a huge buff by any stretch of the imagination, but it does allow Grover to still be active in healing his teammates whilst poking in and out of cover, and if you're a sniper Grover, you can stay relatively close to your allies whilst throwing an axe and dodging back in again, say if you get hit by a sniper or something, while still being able to heal somebody. And just generally it makes it much easier to heal somebody past the wall, and there's not going to be a random obstacle that's going to get in the way, or like a random step that's going to stop you from being able to heal your ally. So all in all, that's just a nice little touch for Grover as a bit more of a healer over being just a support. He still doesn't quite have the presence of the main healers in the game, but it should go some way to help him out. Inara is also getting a bit of a nerf here, in that Waters Field, the deployable rock thing that smashes onto the ground, the deployable itself has had its health reduced from 2,000 to 1,500. So before it was very difficult to take out, and I think compounded by the fact that nobody takes Bulldozer ever, it made it very difficult taking out the Waters Field. It just gives you a bit more of a chance to do that, to be able to destroy it, and even maybe making lower level of Bulldozer more valuable, but still, unless they have an Inara and a Barrack, you're not really going to be picking up that. I'll say Inara, Barrack, Ying, but then who's going to pick those three in a team? Next up, and a lot of people I think will be relatively happy with this, is that Kinessa's reposition no longer grants a reduction of the cooldown on Transporter of that 2 seconds before. So currently Kinessa's teleport is, I wouldn't say overpowered, but it's one of the strongest movement abilities in the game, along with a lot of the other blinks in the game, like Talis Rune of Travel and Eevee's Blink. And the thing is, it isn't on a flanker, it's on a sniper themselves. So I think it's been quite difficult this patch to pin down a good Kinessa. I mean, I'll stress that because I think a lot of snipers that play aren't necessarily great snipers, but are coming against a decent Kinessa, they'll be able to dodge and dip away from you. And it helped having the trail to know exactly where they were going, so you can predict and sort of follow and track where the enemy has jumped to. But this will also compound that, so they can't do it still quite as often, because even if somebody jumps away much further than you can normally blink or dash or follow to, then it's quite difficult to deal with the backline damage dealers, which is kind of what you're there for if they are left vulnerable. Next up with a little nerf is Torvald with the legendary card Field Study, which is the card that used to give a damage bonus of 40% going down to 30% on the protection bubble. This has been a strong card for a hell of a long time, to be able to put a protection bubble on somebody, they dive in, they have the extra damage and survivability, and jump out again. Especially on flankers, using it when they dive into the enemy backlines can make them relatively difficult to destroy, and also they'll be able to burst down your allies very quickly. Now, was it too strong? I'm not too sure, to be honest. It is a very strong card, and Torvald has had some good results, especially with the meta sort of shifting towards flankers over damage dealers, although it's ebb and flowed a bit back now that the reworks on the classes have been changed really. But obviously that's how that goes. It's only a 10% reduction, you're still getting 30% extra damage plus the shield, so I think it'll still be picked up, but it'll likely give the multiple shields a higher importance to pick up on the Torvald. Somebody who's got a buff this time around is Viktor, and what they've done is reduce the strength of the damage fall off on his weapon. What this means is that you'll do more damage from afar than you did before, although you still have a maximum damage that's not been changed. But the way damage drop-off works is that at the max level, it's the maximum damage and it just scales off towards a minimum point, which is cut off for the least amount of damage you can do, but that minimum has just been pushed up slightly, so you'll do more damage further away. I do think that Viktor has been in a bit of a meh place for a long time. He's somebody that's very strong in early matches and when you're starting off in the game, because you can get away with just having good aim and some skill in using his grenade, but a lot of the other damage dealers have mobility that allows them to dodge around a bit more, not quite as much as flankers, but there's more skill in using the map and movement in quite a few of the other characters, like Charlene, being able to withdraw and use that into the space of the map and to come out on people whilst they're not expecting it and things like that. It's just going to give Viktor a little bit more of a nudge in being able to sit back in the back lines and still be able to deal some decent damage. And I'm not sure it'll drag him to the top tiers of champions, but it should give him a little bit more of a chance. Anyway, moving on to some of the bug fixes. So there has been an issue with Siege on the EU where some people are getting stuck in some ridiculous queues when there aren't any queues, and apparently they've fixed that this time around. They've also fixed the fact that Ascension Peak, the new match, was not appearing in casual matches of Siege, which I think has been really annoying because I wanted footage of Ascension's Peak without being on the Siege mode, so hopefully that'll be all sorted out. And they've done a lot of fixes on the maps with collisions on objects in the map. So in Frozen Guard, Foreman's Rise, Magistrate's Archive, Ascension's Peak, and Stonekeep, they fixed some of the collision issues. Sometimes when you'd get stuck on a wall and you get dragged down and things like that, hopefully have been ironed out this patch. They've also fixed a bug where player shadows were rendering through walls, which has happened to me quite a few times, which means that you can see exactly where an enemy is. So, I mean, often you can hear them as well on your headphones, but if they weren't moving, you might sometimes see a shadow outside and be able to come around and take somebody out. So this should reduce the frequency of those shadows clipping through the walls, which is a nice little touch. Another change to the cosmetics is that sprays are going to be all combined into a global spray rather than having different sprays for each champion. Now that sounds bad because it sounds like you won't have as much customization, but all it means is that you'll have to change a spray in the loading screen before the match starts, once you pick your champion. Although I do think that maybe it's a little bit quick at the moment on chucking you into the game sometimes, and there's quite a few things to pick now, and making this global is another thing that you have to switch through rather quickly. The downside is they're getting rid of the mastery sprays, which would show the level of your champion. Well, one of the reasons why you'd actually try and level up the mastery levels, because I think the mastery skins are quite sucky, especially without the parts and pieces. It used to be okay to put those big glowing eyes on people, but the actual skins themselves are kind of ugly because they're just like this big sort of one color skin that looks really awkward because it covers the face and not just the body. If it was an armor skin that was this color, I don't think it'd be as bad, but it does look kind of ridiculous at the moment. So that's a big downside. Be sure to let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. They're saying that people will be reimbursed with the currency they bought the mastery skin with. So if you did actually use crystals on it, you'll get crystals back. And if you use gold, you'll get gold back. Alongside this, all champion sprays are getting taken out in that you can't earn them anymore. But if you have the normal champion sprays, not these mastery sprays, then you will still be able to use them. And this includes card art too. hi-rez argument is that they are getting ready for live now and they're streamlining all of their systems and trying to make them more professional, I guess, more finished, more polished, which I don't disagree with. Some of the things they've tried out haven't really worked and other systems have to go in their place that maybe a bit more simplistic. Onto the skins this time around, it's slightly limited. They're bringing back the Valentine's chest and they're putting two new bigger skins into it. So there's one which is the Bomb King Love Machine. Now, there's been a bit of hype for this one and the voice sounds very dreamy. It's pretty ridiculous. It's like, oh why? It's definitely seductive, but I don't quite like the scheme they've gone for. I don't know whether the bombs are a bit too bold. I don't know exactly, but the eyes are a bit weird as well. I think it just looks a bit out of place. Also, it's meant to be a love machine, but the beard itself that it has is kind of like the beard that Zeus has in the old Hercules film, the Disney film. I mean, it is quite funny. You can see the metallic nipples and the six-pack underneath the big Bomb King torso shell. But I don't know whether it's sort of meshed between Burger King, Zeus, Old Spice, and some weird sort of like Betty Boop American's kids cartoon girl bombs. I don't know. What does everybody else think about this one? I just don't know whether I quite like the clash of everything going on with the skin. And worth mentioning is that these have been data mined for a long time now, so these are probably not skins that were intended in terms of what their vision was after parts and pieces. I think the 4 skins we had in the last patch were a showcase of what they could really do, and this is just probably more of the same of what we had before. The same can be said with the Carnival Ying, and this one is a little bit more disappointing as well. It's like a Brazilian Carnival sort of styled skin, but there's not really much detail in the feathers and on the mask as there is in the splash art. I think with the Arctic Pip we had a bit of a sort of expectation versus reality going on, and the same as could be said here with probably both of the skins really. I don't know whether the colour matches up, and some of the details on the concept art don't really match with what's come out in the final product. I mean, it's also slightly disappointing as well, this is in chest, but they have removed some of the more rubbish stuff that's in the chest. So they've taken out the Pip Love specs, the Grover Rosebud Canopy, which is basically just pink flowers, and that stupid Victor Lone Heart patch, which was just an eye patch. So there'll only be full big skins in there, alongside a new emote too, the Love Burn, which is a sort of boogie dance. I'll let you all judge that for yourself. I think it's okay, it's just a bit of a jig. Kinda looks like it's meant to match up with the Carnival skin itself really. hi-rez are also adding avatars to the realm, but players will only have a default crystal avatar during this patch, so they actually haven't released any yet, but we'll be able to see how that system works out too. Again, this wasn't a huge patch, changing a lot. I think the past 2 patches have been humongous in pretty much changing the whole game again, bringing it back up to what it was before, kind of trying to fix everything since they did the big shake-up. And things have just been gradually getting better since we've had the fix, and honestly it just seems that they're gearing up now to release the game fully. As always, be sure to let me know all of your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more of my content, and I'll see you all next time. Thank you all very much for watching. Joshino.